In this video, we're going to keep working in this basement stairwell area. We're going to do it right now. So now comes not my least favorite part, but I'm not a huge fan of taping and mudding, but it has to be done. I got the drywall in here, and that's the next step. So I have a hammer in my hammer holster. I have a Phillips screwdriver and a utility knife, and I'm going to keep these on me. And that's a little tip for you, because not every drywall installation is perfect, not by me anyways. So if I have to tighten a screw in because it's sticking out while I'm mudding, or if I have to hammer something in, or if I have to cut something out, I like to keep those on me at all times. And then make sure my ladder is set up, make sure my stool is readily available, and I can mix up some mud. So let's do that. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Mudding or doing joint compound is not really something you can learn from just watching a video. You have to just do it. You can learn about basic tools, basic products, but you just have to kind of do it. And everybody has their own technique, so watch a bunch of videos, not just mine. I'll tell you how I do it, and you can do whatever you want. I like to use Durabond 90 on the tape coat. This is not something that you're going to be able to sand. That's why I only use it for the tape coat. It is a chemical cure where the stuff that you buy in a bucket like this is just something that dries. So the chemicals in this bag, when you add water to it, do their thing, and it hardens like concrete. Not really like concrete, but when you sand it, you're probably going to sand the drywall paper off before you sand this off. So beware. And you only have about an hour working time with this. The 90 stands for the setting time, so it sets in about 90 minutes. That's nice when you're doing multiple coats. But basically, I'm just going to open this up, mix up as much as I think I'm going to use in an hour, and I like to do like a half an hour, so I'm not going to go crazy here. Clean buckets, as clean as you can get. Clean water, as clean as you can get. Mine is nasty because there's something going on locally with my water. I have town water, and that's as clean as I can get it. So I'm just going to mix this up and start mudding. One more thing before I mix this up is these are the tools that I'm going to use: 6-inch taping knife and a 14-inch finishing trowel. I believe this is actually made for concrete finishing, but I use it for mudding, and I use this for every coat. Some people like to use a bucket or a hawk that's kind of like this, but it's a big square. With this, I can actually use this to pull the compound as well as the 6-inch knife. So again, it's up to you, but this is what I use. I'm going to use this mixing wand with a drill. To mix this up good. And make sure all that powder's mixed up. All right, all mixed up, ready to go. Now I'm just gonna take some of this. This is about the consistency I like it. Load it up on my finishing trowel, and I have my nifty little tape holder that I made, just a little hook, so I can have that on me so I'm not bending down 100 times. And we can start mudding. Grab a little mud. Start right here, like that. Not too much, not too little. And you are going to make a mess. If this is the first time doing it, definitely going to make a mess. Okay, now I can add some tape. I'm going to try to reach all the way over here, at least get a rough estimate of how long this is. I can just rip it. This. Put a crease in it. I use this paper tape in the corners. And I guess I'll start over here. my way that way. I have to jump from ladder to stool over and over again. Try and get it nice and square in the corner. Now, basically take my 6-inch knife and try and take out a bunch of that mud from behind the tape. If you don't have enough mud on the backside there, the tape will start to bubble out. But you also don't want a huge clump. Same thing on this side. And that's all I do for a tape coat. Sometimes I'll go and put another coat over the tape, like a first coat on one side, because I don't like to use a corner trowel. I've used them before, I don't like them. So I do this side and then I do that side once this side cures. But that's it. Moving on. Now I'm going to do that same thing for these other 3 corners. Make sure you fill in any of these gaps. I'm going to do this one in 2 pieces. I'll make it easier. While I'm here, I'll hit all these screws. See that one? There's an example why I keep my Phillips screwdriver on me. So I can just tighten it just a little bit. These misses. Now I'm going to do this flat seam here. Just fill up the seam. And you can see this is not smooth anymore because it's starting to cure. That's okay. It's okay on a tape coat. What I used to use on flat seams was mesh tape. And I have heard that you can use it if you're using hot mud, quote unquote, which is what this is. It's the stuff you mixed as a chemical cure. But I've had cracking before and I just haven't had good luck with it. So I always use Fibofuse now and I've had really good luck with it. One tip, wear gloves because these are little tiny pieces of fiberglass. They can come off in your hand. It's nothing bad, just kind of annoying. Kind of gets all over the place. So we use it up here. Try and get in the middle of that seam, all the way to the end, and wipe it clean. The thing about this is all that mud is, like the name states, fusing with this tape. Oops, that's okay. See, that would be a problem with paper tape, but that's not a problem now. So once you get that set in pretty good, I like to go over this one more time. Just a real thin coat. Here's an example of how I can use my trowel. Hold my mud with the 6-inch knife, and then just wipe it clean. I'll do the screw holes while I'm here. Now we can move on to the 4 corners. So, a little tip. If your mud starts drying up on you, like mine is, I'm wasting too much time. What I like to do is, before it goes totally bad, I like to use it up on corner bead, if you have it, because you can put a lot on here, and you're going to be going over this multiple times, so it doesn't need to be super smooth the first time. So, you see all those chunks. It's okay on the first coat, and the more you kind of smooth this out, the smoother it will get. Do that a couple times. That should help. If this was too chunky, I wouldn't do this at all, but this really isn't too bad. Here's something I saw recently that I'm going to try. I am actually going to put tape over here, and I think it might come out a lot smoother. So, right over the metal where it attaches to the drywall. Yes. I don't know, this was the first time I've done it, so we'll see how it works out. You learn something new every day, you know? I think that tape actually, my thought is that it's going to make this more smooth, and it definitely helped, especially with this mud being the way it was. So, nice. I think I'm going to do that to this side too. And you got to try and be careful not to mess this side up when you're doing this. So, what I like to do is carefully, like this, from the side. Because I don't know if I'm doing any kind of trim or baseboard or anything. Probably not. So I'm probably going to run a piece of tape all along the bottom. Maybe. Don't quote me on that. Here is the same thing I do with paper tape, but it's just not a right angle. Get that nice and even so it looks good. All right, I think that's as much as I can do with that bucket of mud. I'm gonna clean it up really well. That's another thing, is to keep your tools, your bucket, everything clean. And then I can mix up some more and do the rest of this. But that's basically how you do it. Corners, flat seams, corner bead, and this. You can probably do this a little better, but it actually looks pretty good. So right here, I did some flat tape, which I put the tape right down to the floor and mudded this in, because I don't think I'm doing baseboard here because of the area, but I'll make it look a little bit nicer with little effort. I'm going to do the same thing here and all the way around, including right here. I think that'll just make it a little nicer. So this coat is what's known as the tape coat, and I'm going to let this cure overnight, and then we can do what is known as the first coat. You would think this is the first coat, but it's actually the tape coat. So, let this cure. We'll get back to it tomorrow. So, the tape coat is cured, and before I do the first coat, I go along with my 6-inch knife and just scrape down all this stuff. And in the corners, try and get any of the high spots or the little cuckas like this right here. Any little piece of dried up mud can get in your mud and drive you nuts. It'll scrape and it'll leave this long track. So just go along, scrape any of that stuff, clean it all up before you start mudding. So here's a good example. Pardon my poor mudding job. This is when the mud was starting to dry up. But something like this little piece right here, even something that small will get in your mud and drive you nuts. So make sure you scrape it down good. And then on these corners, same thing. Just scrape all this. I like to do one full side like this, nice and flat. And then I do this side, nice and flat. And then I go right up the middle. Kind of roll the knife around like this. Just like that. You have some options when it comes to the first to the last coat. I'm going to use this. This is USG with dust control. This actually does work pretty well when you're sanding. It's a little less dusty. You can use blue top mud or green top. It's from the same company, just doesn't have the dust control. The green top, the only difference is it's a little heavier. The blue is a little easier to work with, but you could get some bubbles because it spreads a lot easier. I'll show you how to avoid that. You can also use a mix, a powder that's like an easy sand would work. They have 20, they have 5, 90. They chemically cure just like the Durabond, but it's totally up to you. I'm going to use this, but what I do to make it go on the wall smoother is I add a cup of water, about this much. Product placement. Add that there. And then I'll mix it up. And be careful here. Don't want this flying all over the kitchen. Some people will actually add dish soap to this. Apparently it goes on the wall smoother with that, but I haven't tried it. And the good thing about this stuff, the premix stuff, is that you have a lot more time to work with it, and that's why I like to use it. So I can stop at any time. Okay, so all I want to do is cover the tape. So I hit one side of these corners and let it dry, and then I'll do the other side on the next coat. But this is very boring, so I'm not going to bore you with all the details. Just cover the tape. Put it on thin, but thick enough where it covers the tape. Just put a little more pressure towards this side to try and taper that. Try and get it nice and tight to the wall. Easier said than done. This is where you have to just practice. It's a good idea to keep your tools clean. Just rinse them off every once in a while with water, because this stuff does start to dry up and you will get some little dried up pieces in your mud, and that's never good. So when I do my flat seams, first of all, I want to try and be careful because that is still wet. But I pull them out a little further than the tape coat, something like that. And I'm just applying my mud with my 6-inch. And again, this is, the technique's all up to you. I got some dried up stuff in here, probably from this corner. Usually you can get rid of that as you spread this mud. But I pull it out to about here. I'll do this whole thing first, and then I'll show you what I do. Just kind of put this on very roughly to start. I need more mud, but I'm going to start pulling this from over here. I use my 14-inch knife. Make sure it's clean. Go in the middle. Putting more pressure here than here. Top and the middle. Just kind of keep doing that until it gets nice and smooth and tapered. Take off this excess. And now with this box, if it was just the box here and not the outlet, I could skim over this whole thing, but I want to be careful because the outlet's there. Kind of a pain. That's okay. Okay. I'm going to leave it alone now. That looks pretty good. So then the next one, the second coat, will go out a little further. We'll fill in all that and it'll taper this so it'll look more flat. If you get this on the floor, no worries. Cleans up with some water. I'm going to go nice and tight to the floor. Like that. So I think, do it like this. That might work. Let's see. This is a very unique situation. I don't expect you to have to do this, but I guess you can just sand it. Here's an issue you get with paper tape. This is bubbling, and it's just going to keep doing that. So I'm just going to cut it out right here. And that's caused by not enough mud on the back side of the tape. I'm not even going to show how I did this because it's really hacky. But this little corner right here is a mess. So I'm going to rely on lots of coats and lots of sanding. Anyways, I'll show how these screw holes get filled. Maybe at the end, the bloopers, because that's where it belongs, because it's hilarious. First coat is done. And this stuff you definitely need to let dry overnight. The other stuff cures pretty quick, but I'm going to turn on a dehumidifier and that'll help to dry this out overnight. So first coat is dry. Now the second coat, first thing, just want to scrape everything down. Your first coat might look a little something like this depending on how good you are. You're probably better than me because this doesn't look that great. But for the second coat, the goal is to expand these, basically pull these out, taper them out a little more, the flat seams, get the other side of the corners, cover that tape, and hit the screw holes again. And I am mudding all along the bottom instead of doing baseboard in here. So I'm going to hit that again. And basically just put another thin layer on top of what you already have here. And just carefully scrape this, same way we did before. Oops, try not to do that. Okay, we're putting more mud on it, but try not to do that. And then, this is all kind of tricky for me without making a mess, but you can clean up all your whoopsies if you have stuff like this. I can sand this stuff afterwards too. But this stuff comes off really easily. You can even use a wet sponge to clean this up, which I might do on the wood. And then in this corner, I didn't actually do too terrible. Last time I used this, which I probably should have stopped and thought a little bit. What I did was I cut out a piece of plastic, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but that'll get me much closer back here, and I'll be able to just kind of bring this mud out, make it a little nicer so that it's easier to sand and make look good. And this will work on the other side too. So just things like that you gotta think of. Look at that. Big old crusty. I'm starting to get some crusties in here, so I'm going to add some water. That should help. So this is how far I bring it out on the second coat compared to the first coat right here. And then on the next one, I'll bring it out a little further. This is how I do it anyways. You can do it however you want. And it gets easier as you go because you can pull the mud tighter. So really this is kind of ready for sanding, this right here, but sometimes if I don't taper it enough right here, you can tell. So what I like to do on my second and third coats is I go along and mud right here, and then I just pull it tight like this, and it'll fill in and kind of feather that out, and that'll be easier to sand. You won't have to sand as much. I'll do the same thing on this one here. Then I have a little spot where I crossed over on the two swipes, so I can mud that, like that. Anything that'll make it easier for you to finish it, that's what you can do. Hit the screw holes. Some people will go all the way like this. Here, I'll show you. They'll do this. More like that. And then they'll go. But I'm sure I could get good at that. I just don't do it because I'm not going for speed. That's the benefit of that, I guess. Just. But it's not my thing. all around the top here. Do that. Third and final coat, same exact thing. Scrape it and make these a little wider. I could probably sand this right now and be fine, but why not? I'm gonna pull this really tight so it'll get really smooth. It's easier to do now that we're doing the third coat. You can put it on real thin and it'll make it a lot easier, a lot less sanding if you do it that way. So I'm gonna scrape this and do my last coat. So I already hit both sides of my corners, so I'm just gonna go along and touch things up, like right here, where I took a pass all the way up and all the way down, and it just so happened to meet right here. So it's not perfect, so to make the sanding easier, I'm just gonna put a little mud right there. And believe it or not, just that one little pass is gonna probably save me 10, 15, 20 seconds of sanding. So I'll do that wherever I see stuff like that, right here. Flatten that out. Right here. And you could do a whole nother pass if you wanted to and pull it real tight. That's up to you. I think I'm gonna be good with that. And then hit all the screw holes one more time because why not? It's hard to see, but you can definitely feel it. There's a big spot right here, and this whole thing right here can be feathered out. So I'll hit that. That's perfect. All the videos that I've ever seen about mudding, I've never seen anybody do that, but I've just experienced that helping me a lot. So maybe I haven't seen it because it's not right. I don't know. But it works for me. I can put a lot more pressure on now and just make this nice and smooth. Feather it out. Just be careful along the edges and around this switch. And sanding will take care of the rest. I like to make sure there's plenty of mud on here before I start wiping it clean. Just try and bring the mud out even with this box if you can. But with this, I'm going to fill in this low spot here and basically connect these two. And then I might bring this up a little more at the top. I'll put plenty of mud right here. Drop a whole bunch. I'd have to clean this trowel. Some dried up stuff getting on there. Need more mud. See if I can clean this up a little bit. See if my handy dandy tool that I made works. Get as far as I can with this knife. I think it works better to get in there. It's a hard spot. Don't touch it. That side's done. So I may end up skim coating this whole side. And skim coating is basically just covering the entire wall with a thin layer of joint compound. I'm just trying to get into all these little nooks in the corner without messing up the other side of the corner. And I'm spreading this mud out all over the wall, and then I'll smooth it out flat. As flat as I can anyways. A little easier to get in on this side because this isn't sticking out as much. Now let's see if I can get in here. Just a couple more things. This under here. Well, I think I have had just about enough fun for now. In the next video, I'll go over a bunch of details on how I sand this out, how I prime it, what I use for primer, and how I patch it to make it look nice, and then I'll paint everything. But that is next time. Thanks for watching. If you want to see the episode that came before this, check it out. If you want to see the one that comes after this, check it out. And any of my other videos, I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Coda.
We're never gonna get this done.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Holy shit balls. Why? Why do I do that? Like,
The ladder will catch you.
I just thought of something. I didn't watch the new Ghostbusters and now Halloween's over. I mean, I've already seen it, but I wanted to watch it again for, you know, Halloween. My life is over. You're gonna be cutting a lot of this out, Lauren. Gotta be more careful. Ugh. No! So. Okay, first coat. This is the tape coat. First coat is the second. Oh, it's because it's a reopen. So I can stop at any time, take a break, take lunch, edit, reply to comments, play pickleball. My fingers in the mud. Fingers in the mud. All right, just do the best you can with what you got. I don't even know what that means. Cut that out of it. Like that. Ah! Did you see that? So there's some dried up stuff. Sometimes you just gotta leave it alone, Matt. Because then you end up doing this, and you get frustrated, and you just load it up with so much mud. It's not fun. Oh my God. I don't know an alternative to using this thing. I can't even get, screwing up that one. Okay. I'm just gonna have to do a bunch of sanding in that corner. Terrible. It's seriously like really bad. I don't even want to show this. Tucking it with my finger. I can get like a smaller taping knife, but won't fit in that corner. Whatever. Oh boy, I hope I'm mixed up enough. I hate mud. I know, I'm in your way. It's driving me nuts. See? It's like this never dried. That's what they make sanding sponges for. I don't know why. I don't get it. I gotta get this trash down a little bit. Whoops. Ah. Come on. It's a basement. Who cares?
Clearly you.
Man, I wish I was doing textured walls. This would be easy. That's why people do textured walls. Not because of the look. That might be the excuse for the person doing it. I look so much better. No, that's not the case. It's just easier. Admit it. Admit it! It's easier than flat walls. Oh, what happened there? How did that happen? Wow, I could say that that looks pretty good. There's 1 out of 15, right? We're trying to be positive, right? Okay, sorry.
No, I think it looks good.
I think that one came out good. This is difficult.
Except for that one spot.
Hey!